Paint Me Black Part 3. In Part 1, God painted me black. And in Part 2, I am the miracles of God's beauty and love. In Part 3, I want to inspire you to be just like me. Being black means you're original and natural and dominating and innocent and creative and forgiving and talented and gifted and strong and wise and intelligent and outgoing and outspoken and compassionate and honest and loyal and patient and humble and encouraged and God-fearing and always loving and always true and always a leader, and everyone will follow you if you're true and you admit that being black is who you are. And oh God, please paint them black so they can feel how it feels to be free. I'm God's gift, God's messenger. You're watching CHRISThype Magazine, and again, I'm just dropping some freestyle spoken word poetry on you, and it's just like a private hobby that I have to just freestyle words that come to my mind. I believe that that's like I believe that that's for me, it's self-improvement. For me, it's just like a way to keep my mind fast. I read once that the founder of Islam in America once said, he once said fast moving, he once said fast thinking, fast moving, right down to the modern times. So I believe that if you think fast and you begin to move fast, right now, and what's going on right now, you thinking fast and you moving fast, you'll begin to elevate into a greater state of consciousness. You'll begin to evolve into a greater state of existence, and your vibration will be very high. And so, one of the things to raise my vibration up is I like to freestyle things. Whatever comes to my mind, I just create. I just build on thoughts. It's called thought building. That's my technique of high vibration. I call it thought building. And today I just did some building with you. I just dropped 3 verses to a swag of an idea that I had called Paint Me Black. And so I'm just sharing my perspective on being black and what it means to be black. To me, I believe it means freedom. You know what I mean? And I don't want to just leave you with that poem. I also want to leave you with a little bit of history. Do you know that Egypt was the first established civilization in the world? Do you know, according to history, Egypt was the first established civilization in the world? Egypt is the birthplace of all democracy. That's when you had the people coming out of Stone Age times. They began to build more agreeable places that was more agreeable for living. They began to build huts and eventually developed into palaces. They began to establish, in the first dynasty, they began to establish a law, which would govern the people, and then they elected a pharaoh, which would enforce the laws and govern the people. That's democracy. Egypt is the birthplace of all democracy. Also, Egypt was the birthplace of weapons, developing weapons and tools. They used the weapons to hunt and domesticate the animals for food and for clothing, and they utilized all of the animal. The bones they used for more weapons and for tools and stuff like that. They used the skin and the leather for clothing and different garments and rugs and stuff like that. They used the blood for writing, for ink and hieroglyphic writings of the walls. They began to they used of course they ate the meat of the animal, and they also began to do things like they discovered the importance of agriculture. They began to produce crops and grain and stuff like that, fruits. They began to not only understand the importance of water and purifying water, but they began to course the water streams. They began to create irrigation systems to to course the water streams. We're talking about in primitive times, them having a superior knowledge that's maybe even surpassed, like something that's even greater than the knowledge that we have today. They were performing open heart surgery in Africa back then. They had the magic schools where they taught medicine, and they had the mystery schools where they taught medicines and stuff like that. So you know what I mean. If anybody need to be finding out who they are, and it shouldn't be a black person, because we taught this world everything that they know. Sorry, this is not the race card or nothing like that, but the Hellenistic Empire was founded on Egyptian Egyptian architect, Egyptian science, Egyptian arithmetic, Egyptian astrology, Egyptian principles of democracy. Rome was the Hellenistic Empire. Roman Empire was based on was a replica or a duplicate of what they was doing in Egypt. So and also if you look at the Bible and all of the Bible, if anybody need to be finding out they decent in of the Bible, it shouldn't be a black person. It should be probably somebody white, because the entire Bible took place in Africa. You know what I mean? Egypt is in the heart of Africa. They try to make it seem like Egypt is its own certain continent, that it's not a part of the continent of Africa. But that's a lie from the pit of hell. Also, you have to understand it. During the cradle of the first civilization, which was Egypt, you had the Ethiopians working hand in hand with the Egyptians to cradle that civilization. They began to do things that had surpassed the savages. They began to create pottery and eating utensils and stuff like that. I'm talking about a real civilized people, and those people were black people. And that's why, as black people, we need to take pride in we need to take pride, in our culture and our heritage and our people, and really understand the greatness that we have inside of us. You know what I mean? And this comes from a lot of studying. The reason why I believe that some white people are very, very mad and hateful towards black people is because all throughout history, if there's ever been a great move of history and society, that great move or that great discovery, or whatever it is that's great, can always be directly traced to having been created by a black man, or having been discovered by a black man, or what I mean. Like there will always be a coalition between greatness and blackness, versus white people having duplicated or stolen from a black person, taking credit for it, but they can't find a direct coalition to anything. And that's why I believe that a lot of white people sometimes can be very hateful towards black people, and very envious towards black people. So, there's not a such thing as superiornism. I don't believe that one person is over another person. Just because we're black and we taught this world everything that they know, that doesn't mean that we're more superior than them. But we do need to give credit to where credit belongs. You could take a black man and mix him with any race. Asian, you take a black man and mix him with a Chinese, and that baby is gonna come out black. You take a black and mix him with any white person, and that black person and that baby is gonna be a black baby. Why? Because the gene of a black person is very strong. Also, what I mean, not only is the gene of black people strong, but it's a healthy gene. Why? Because Adam and Eve was black. How do we know Adam and Eve was black? Because we know that the Garden of Eden was in Africa. How do we know that the Garden of Eden was in Africa? Well, if you look in the Bible, it talks about the 4 rivers that nourished the Garden of Eden. You look in the book of Genesis. Genesis is the first book of the Bible. In the book in Hebrew, the word Genesis means in the beginning, and that's why they talk about the things that took place in the beginning of times. And in the Garden of Eden, it talked about four rivers that flourished through the Garden of Eden, and those rivers, those rivers had filled the Garden of Eden. We have to understand that those four rivers are found in Africa. So if those four rivers that flourished the Garden of Eden is found in Africa, then it's safe to say that the Garden of Eden was in Africa. And if we say that the Garden of Eden was in Africa, then it's only safe to assume that Adam and Eve was black. And if we assume that Adam and Eve was black, then everyone who's on this earth, being that they're a direct descendant from Adam and Eve, they're all black. So as time went on, as time began as man began to evolve in time, the world began to break off. You know what I'm saying? Even the biggest continent in the world was still Africa until 3.5 billion years ago, when Madagascar broke off from Africa. You know what I mean? Madagascar was the rainforest in Africa that was attached to Africa, but it broke off, and now it's just its own little, and that left Asia being the first biggest continent in the world, and Africa being the second biggest continent in the world. But we have to understand that when after the Tower of Babylon was dismembered by God, the people was spread out in the world. And as white people went to Europe and certain people went to different regions of the world, white people began to lose their melanin. The melanin in their skin, it's an ingredient in the skin that allows a person to withstand the rays from the sun. White people began to lose that because they went to colder climates. You know what I'm saying? They began to and because as human beings, we're almost like chameleons in the sense that we mimic our environment in order for us to survive in our environment. So when white people was sent to Europe, they grew up in a colder habitat, and so they lost the melanin in their skin. And that's why white people get sunburnt real easily, and they get lice and all kind of stuff, because they lost a lot of that stuff in their genes. And also white people get sicker real faster and stuff like that. I did a study. I actually did an essay on slavery, because I did a study on the stock market, the New York stock market, and I realized that the New York Stock Exchange was founded on slavery. And back then, what they did was they would take the slaves and they would bring them on top of the stage, the wooden stage, and the slave owners, the plantation masters, would bet on the slaves. The slaves became their stock. You know what I mean? And so what they did was they said that one black man was the equivalent of 8 white men, because white people was getting diseases. They were getting, getting diseases real fast, dying real fast. They was lazy. They didn't want to work. So one black man, because we was built real strong and muscular and our immune system was real strong, was the equivalent of 8 white men. One black man was the equivalent of 5 Asians, because remember they brought the Chinese over here to work the railroads, and one black man was the equivalent of 3.5 or 4 Indians, Native Americans. So you know what I mean? Black people have always been strong over time. In fact, white people find the need to mate with black people because they want to keep their gene or their bloodline strong. You know what I mean? And so I'm not pulling the race card, because I'm a firm believer that there's only one race, and that's the human race, and that's God. As man, we were created equal in God's eyes. We may not be identical because we have different ethnical backgrounds. We may not be identical because there's a distinguishing factor of social class systems. Social class systems make us not identical, but we're all equal. You know, we're all equal because we were created by God. We're all equal because, you know, we bleed, we have common needs and wants. So again, I'm out of time. You watching God's Gift, God's Message. This is CHRISThypeMag.